Hey there, thanks for checking out Press Pause with Vig Villain. I'm Jeff. The villain is currently recovering from a suborbital high-speed piano recital. Now, I know when he's here, the channel is normally about how many jelly beans fit in various models of VCR, but today we're going to talk about video game news, and holy cow, we got a big topic, so let's get into it. I am feverish with excitement. Thanks to the ongoing FTC versus Microsoft appeal process, we got what might be the biggest leak in the history of video games. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, and there have been massive leaks before, but this one's huge. This is like, we're talking everything about Xbox you could want to know, except for like Phil Spencer's height, weight, and favorite air fryer recipes. This is their roadmap to 2030. Beyond that, we're talking about updated consoles, new controllers, the next generation of Xbox consoles, Bethesda's release slate from 2020 to 24, at least what they had planned. We're talking Red Dead Redemption 2 potential upgrade, as well as the valuation and pricing Game Pass was going to put on it. We're talking about the fact that Xbox was considering buying Nintendo. And I'm not talking about at the birth of Xbox, the famous anecdote where they go to Japan, try to buy Nintendo, and get laughed out of the room in 1999. I'm talking about 2020 emails. They want to buy Nintendo and Valve. Nintendo and Valve. What the f***? They want to buy Nintendo? So let's kick this off here with why Roadmap 2030. They're identifying their path to their goals. So here are their goals. 100 million Game Pass members with $7 billion in hardware, $16.9 billion in transactions, $7.9 billion in subscriptions, $2.6 billion in mobile, $1.4 billion in advertising. That is $35.7 billion. That's the revenue they want to pull in 2030. $35.7 billion. How are they going to do that? Well, the console business will be the foundation. Consoles are considered a key health meter for the brand and will continue to drive majority of revenue and subscribers. However, they want to unlock new off-console endpoints to help substantially grow subscribers over the next 8 years. And the real interesting part here, controller becomes the hero. The new Xbox controller is the only thing you need to play on every device. This low barrier to entry will fuel subscriber growth. So what's the new Xbox controller? I'm glad you asked. Codenamed Sebel. It's the world's best controller now playing on a screen near you. So it's got a few interesting things here. We're looking at Play Anywhere with Xbox Wireless 2, Bluetooth 5.2, and Direct to Cloud. Now, I believe Direct to Cloud is a fancy way of a Wi-Fi connected controller. I think similar to how Amazon Luna has done it. The cool thing about this is while it can be connected through USB-C or Bluetooth, the latency is most improved when you connect over Wi-Fi directly to the Luna cloud. I think that's what Xbox is planning here. I think the idea is that it would connect directly to Wi-Fi, and that way your inputs are going directly to the servers and not passing through your device before going to the server. So you're just kind of taking a link out of the chain, making it a little bit more streamlined. In addition, we're seeing new modular thumbsticks with improved longevity, lift to wake, so no longer having to press the button to turn it on, but the ability just for the controller to turn on with motion. And we're looking at an accelerometer, so gyro aiming hopefully, and then precision haptic feedbacks with VCA haptics doubling as speakers, so much like the DualSense's abilities from the PlayStation brand. In addition, we're getting quieter buttons and thumbsticks. That's good because the Xbox controller is loud as hell. So in addition to this controller, we're also looking at what they're calling mid-gen refreshes. Now, these are not going to be upgrades to the consoles, but rather like more updates. So let's take a look here at the codename Elwood Xbox Series S refresh. Now, what this is delivering overall is 1 terabyte of storage, so increased storage from the original base S. The all-new, more immersive controller, the Sebel we just looked at the same price of $299. It's also going to include Wi-Fi 6. So faster Wi-Fi, and then reduced power consumption. Other than that, it roughly looks like what you'd expect it to look like, kind of the same thing as far as like the overall case, the chassis, if you will. Now let's take a look at the codename Brooklyn Series X refresh, delivering a lot of the same stuff. Wi-Fi 6, reduced power consumption, additional storage 2 terabytes, same price at $499. This does have a more cylindrical shape, And the thing I want to highlight though is this stupid marketing term at the top. Now adorably all digital. I am a hybrid customer. I buy physical and digital games. I've never once been swayed to buy digital based on the fact that it would be adorably so. I don't even know what that means. Of all the pros to digital, going with adorable is just like a marketing term from hell. Really dislike it. Sarah Morgan disliked that. So if you're wondering how that all fits in, Xbox has a handy little timeline here they set up for us. Well, not us. They did not intend for us to see any of this. But let's take a look. Xbox gaming at the Xbox Series launch. You see they've got low-end and high-end PCs on either side of the consoles. They've got their core and elite controller and their headset. Where they see themselves now is with more cloud gaming added, right? So browsers, mobile, the smart TVs, streaming sticks. They list the cloud device here that we know they already canceled. It was seen on Phil Spencer's shelf in the background once, but they did not go with that. They decided to rely more on third-party devices for cloud. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Xbox Gaming Beyond. So where they see themselves. Now, let me zoom in here on a couple of things. All right, you're seeing a handheld device and those refreshed consoles. If we come down here, we're also seeing a keyboard and mouse, a third controller option, which we already looked at, the premium. And then over here, we're looking at a one-hand controller and a mobile controller. Similar, it seems, to the way Joy-Cons look, or like the Backbone or the Razer Kishi have performed. This is a pretty interesting look at what Xbox might be planning next as far as kind of the hardware and how they are looking to grow not only the console and the PC, but the more cloud-first approach to Xbox and gaining subscribers. All right, now if we look here at the launch timelines for the Elwood and Brooklyn consoles, we can see the plan is to drop them in the fall of fiscal year 25, with 60 days between the launches to basically give the Series S its kind of own moment to shine, right, before the Series X. You can see here they're planning on the 512 gigabyte Last Chance Edith. I'm assuming Edith is the new code name for the original Series S. They want to do a $199 Black Friday offer before end of life, and then a Starkville end of life ahead of the Brooklyn launch. Now, I thought Lockhart and Anaconda were the code names for the S and X. It looks like they're using Edith and Starkville as the new code names. Not sure if this is like separate products we're unaware of, or if they've just kind of renamed the code names. They're using a new naming scheme and wanted to adjust everything. But that's interesting, especially if there's not going to be a disk drive attachment for the Brooklyn. It might be time to get a Series X with that disk drive before 25 if you're wanting to have access to physical games. The bummer here is, as much as Xbox talks about being for game preservation and the ability to pop in, original Xbox or Xbox 360 discs, if they go all digital, that's going away, and you might have to rebuy, unless there's some sort of program that allows me to take the physical versions of games I own and bring them over. This is kind of a bad look, in my opinion, to see them really doubling down on the all digital. All right, let's take a look here though, because while we did see that one-handed controller and the handheld device in the Xbox future ecosystem vision, we see here in their they have a nice little graph here that shows not in scope of first party at the top, earbuds, media remote, mobile controller, and handheld, which means while they envision a future where handheld is important to Xbox, it's looking like they're going to want to continue to rely on third parties like Backbone, the ROG Ally, Lenovo, those types of things to get that out there, and they're not currently looking at making their own dedicated handhelds. We can also see not currently funded would be a new Elite controller, a luxury controller, console customization via Xbox Design Labs, which would be incredible, PC accessories, new cloud server blades, but what they do have currently funded is the cloud console Keystone, which again, that project was shelved. So we're seeing that, some of this information is old or inaccurate, but this at least gives us an idea of what their overall plans were. We also see the mid-gen consoles, Elwood and Brooklyn, so those are coming. We see the wireless headset, the core controller, the Sebel, and some Xbox Design Lab stuff for the mid-gen controller. Okay, and then next, let's take a look at the cohesive hybrid compute. Xbox has stated in this slide Their vision is to develop a next-generation hybrid game platform capable of leveraging the combined power of the client and cloud to deliver deeper immersion and entirely new classes of game experiences, optimized for real-time gameplay and creators. We will enable new levels of performance beyond the capabilities of the client hardware alone. Now, they list out some strategic decisions and investments they need to make as far as the CPU, the GPU, the basic build of this device. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I can wax poetic on the difference between co-designing something with AMD or licensing out, a future AMD Navi 5. I believe they're on Navi 3, but I don't know enough to know the pros and cons of that. But I do want to talk about this idea of the hybrid platform, because at the bottom you can see they're lacking a thin OS for a sub $99 consumer or handheld device. So essentially, the pitch is a game platform where some of it is client-side on the dedicated device and some of it is in the cloud. Xbox has already been experimenting with this. We saw in Microsoft Flight Simulator, while you would download the game to your PC or console, certain parts of the performance were handled via the cloud. This could be really cool for making devices smaller, more portable, cheaper, and allowing people with more low-end type devices to access cutting-edge games. However, the con, the reverse of that, is that the game would need to be always online. So forget about playing your games in flights or travel unless you want to just eat up data. So there's pros and cons here. It's very interesting, but this vision of the future, I'm not sold on. Xbox has kind of been walking back from cloud in a lot of ways. I know they're looking at trying to do more PC game streaming through Azure rather than the Series X server blades. So I think a lot of this is up in the air. Most of this coming out, right, is coming out from the Microsoft FTC trial. So a lot of it's from 2021, 22 at the latest. So some of this is going to be older plans, but this is a very interesting look at where they see the next generation going, say 28 and beyond. We also got a chart here that's very interesting because this is some games they were hoping to maybe ask for on Game Pass, the likelihood of the closing, and then also some notes around pricing. Now, the big news most people are reporting from this is that Xbox was expecting there to be a Red Dead Redemption 2 Generation 9 upgrade, right? So an upgraded version for Xbox Series S and X and PS5. And that is awesome news. Hopefully that's coming soon. But what I think is even more interesting is the fact that Xbox was assuming Rockstar and Take-Two would be asking for $5 million a month for the game, and that they would get about 10 million monthly hours out of that game. Now, it's interesting for a couple of reasons. One, when you do the math on that, you go, okay, so $5 million a month. They usually do 6-month contracts with Rockstar. So you're looking at, okay, $30 million to get that on there. When you look at what they're generating in revenue off Game Pass, that sort of amount starts to make a little bit of sense. And you can see here on this chart, for Dying Light 2, they expected the ask to be 50 million, and they'd get 70 million hours out of it total. And that was like a total price there, right? The expected ask for Dragon Ball: The Breakers was 20 million. The expected ask for Return to Monkey Island is in the $5 million range. You can see that for Baldur's Gate 3, which they listed as a second-run Stadia PC RPG, they obviously weren't expecting Baldur's Gate 3 to explode like it did. They were thinking there would be a $5 million range there. Now, obviously, with Baldur's Gate 3's popularity, that's probably very low. But the fact that they listed out like this is how they look at things. You can see that for Gotham Knights, which is coming to Xbox, we just saw that too. That's coming to Game Pass soon. Gotham Knights, their expected partner ask was 50 million with 55 million hours. So I think that's a great look at how Xbox plans out the pricing on Game Pass, and I think it goes towards letting us see just how they are planning on making Game Pass sustainable. Another thing that leaked, because oh my goodness, so much is leaked here, y'all. Look at this, the ZeniMax management forecast. Now this is outdated. You can see it's from fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 2024. So the timeline's wrong on this. You can already see in the year 21, they had Starfield coming out. In 22, they had the Indiana Jones game. So they've missed some of this, right? But the point is, these are projects they have on the release schedule. Now let's look at some of these interesting ones. If you look here at fiscal year 2022, we see the Indiana Jones game. We see the Oblivion remaster. In fiscal year 23, we see something called Doom Year Zero and DLC, as well as 2 untitled projects, Project Kestrel and Project Platinum. And then in fiscal year 24, we see them planning the Elder Scrolls 6. I think that is unlikely. We also see a Kestrel expansion, a licensed IP game, a Fallout 3 remaster, Dishonored 3, a sequel for Ghostwire Tokyo, and Doom Year Zero DLC. Now, this is wild, all right? We're talking about a new Doom, a new Dishonored, a Ghostwire sequel, Fallout 3 remaster, an Oblivion remaster. These are some exciting announcements, my friends. Obviously, the timelines, like I said, they're all wrong on this. They're all wrong. Starfield came out 2 years later than they had anticipated. However, these games are likely all in development. Now, we don't know what the licensed IP is or what Kestrel or Platinum are, but I don't think it takes a lot of brain power to figure out what Doom Year Zero is. I gotta say, I'm sure it's disappointing for people at ZeniMax and Bethesda to have lost control of the narrative here. I'm sure marketing was working hard to hype some of these up over time and slowly roll out the release cadence. However, seeing things like an Oblivion remaster, a new Doom, the Elder Scrolls 6, I'm excited. I think a lot of people are going to be very excited for like a Fallout remaster, a new Ghostwire, Dishonored 3. This is really cool stuff to see, and just part of what makes this such a huge, massive leak that really, in a lot of ways, is revealing most of Xbox's plans. Now, we don't get a look at what Xbox Game Studios is working on, but this is quite a bit of news here. All right, now let's jump over to this Phil Spencer email regarding Nintendo and Valve, because I think this is the big the big mother lode here. I'm going to read the first paragraph of this email in full, and then we'll talk about it. I totally agree that Nintendo is the prime asset for us in gaming, and today gaming is our most likely path to consumer relevance. I've had numerous conversations with the LT of Nintendo about tighter collaboration, and feel like if any US company would have a chance with Nintendo, we are probably in the best position. The unfortunate, or fortunate for Nintendo, situation is that Nintendo is sitting on a big pile of cash. They have a board of directors that until recently has not pushed for further increases in market growth or stock appreciation. I say until recently, as our former Microsoft board of director member, Value Act, has been heavily acquiring shares of Nintendo. And I've kept in touch with Mason Morfitt as he's been acquiring. It's likely he will be pushing for more from Nintendo stock, which could create opportunities for us. Without that catalyst, I don't see an angle to a near-term, mutually agreeable merger of Nintendo and Microsoft, and I don't think a hostile action would be a good move. So we are playing the long game. But our board of directors has seen the full write-up on Nintendo and Valve, and they are fully supportive on either if opportunity arises, as am I. Whoa, okay? Not only are they very interested in buying Nintendo, but a former Microsoft board of director member has been purchasing up shares, and it's likely that might be a good angle as far as pushing Nintendo to need to grow more, right? Grab more market share, appreciate their stock higher, giving Microsoft an opportunity to push for a discussion of mergers, a closer partnership, anything that gets them closer to making that a reality. This is crazy, okay? Because look, buying Activision, a publisher, I'm on record saying I don't think, and I still don't, that purchasing Activision is a legal monopoly or a real threat to where Nintendo or Sony sit. I think it actually is going to lead to increased competition. However, purchasing Nintendo, a direct competitor, a platform that makes hardware, that makes consoles, that is its own ecosystem, that is a whole nother ball game. Now, I will say, this is from 2020. It's very pie in the sky, especially when you look at now what Microsoft has had to go through, the gauntlet of regulators in trying to get Activision approved. I don't see the UK or the US or even Europe approving a Nintendo purchase. And before you even get out the gate on that one, I don't see the Japanese government being thrilled about one of their entertainment darlings, Nintendo, being purchased by a foreign company, in this case Microsoft. So really, this doesn't seem likely, but just the fact that Xbox considers it. I mean, it's crazy, because we all remember the anecdote when Microsoft was forming Xbox. in what, 99, they fly out to Kyoto, have a meeting in Japan with Nintendo and offer to buy Nintendo, and they get laughed out of the room. Well, it seems that fire burning in their hearts never left the Microsoft C-suite, because they still want to pick up Nintendo. Yeah, it's absolutely wild. All right, and if we go to the second paragraph here, we see them talking about, and we have two fairly active M&A discussions in gaming right now. They mentioned Warner Brothers Interactive and ZeniMax. Now, they ended up purchasing ZeniMax, and they said the only hang-up with ZeniMax was the valuation expectation of the founders. They ended up paying $7.5 billion for that company. With WB, they say, and I'm kind of glad to read this because it justifies what I've been saying about why Microsoft would not want, and why most gaming companies would not want to pick up Warner Brothers Interactive. And that's because they wouldn't own the IP. The big IP that makes Warner Brothers is things like Batman and the upcoming Suicide Squad, Harry Potter. These are not IP you would own. That's a huge issue, right? It would really mess up, as Phil Spencer says here, that hurts long-term flexibility, right? If you don't own that IP, you're constantly having to license it out. I think maybe the only IP Warner Brothers might own is potentially Mortal Kombat. But man, my mind is when I read that Xbox is trying to buy Nintendo. And look here at the end. Let me read this paragraph for you at the end, just to bring home to you how badly they want Nintendo and how weird this is. I love this discussion and value you looking at the opportunities here. At some point, getting Nintendo would be a career moment, and I honestly believe a good move for both companies. It's just taking a long time for Nintendo to see that their future exists off of their own hardware. A long time. ... smiley face. ... smiley face. Phil Spencer is talking about buying Nintendo with this energy. What in the world? It's just taking a long time for Nintendo to see that their future exists off their own hardware. And I don't know that he's 100% wrong about that idea. I do think the time is coming when Nintendo is going to want to put their games on PC as well, or on mobile. But I don't know if the future exists where it's best for Nintendo to be a part of Xbox. It's just wild. Now, again, like I said, I think this is pie in the sky. I don't see how this goes through regulators. But the idea that Microsoft is interested in that, and then on top of seeing them say things like they want to be the leader in gaming by 2030, they're looking to gobble up a large chunk of this industry. And I think, this goes to show that when Microsoft says we see our competition as like Amazon and Apple and Netflix, they mean it. And so they are wanting to get big, very big in gaming. They see gaming as their connection to the consumer market. And when they look at what Amazon is starting to build up, what Netflix is building up with the purchase of studios, they see Apple with the iPhone 15 having console games like RE4 and Death Stranding. Microsoft is gearing up for those battles. In the current market, though, I don't see how they managed to grab Nintendo, a company that, was big in 2020, is even bigger now when you look at the astronomical growing success of the Switch, the fact that they just made $1 billion off the Mario movie. It is going to be a very interesting time in gaming over the next few years, and the fact that all of this leaked, I don't know what this means. I think it's going to be a very interesting time to see how Xbox responds, what changes to their plans this rolls about, what changes to their relations with their competitors, the developers and publishers they already work with. I'm very interested to see what happens with this information being out there. I don't know if we've ever had a leak this wild, but thanks for watching. That's it. I should go.